Meow, 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 meow. Everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everyone, Cantonese Cat here. Just want to update the price action technical analysis for what I'm seeing here in Palantir. And if I have time, I might add another stock on top of that. The real key story here is what are the institutions doing when it comes to this stock? The answer to that is institutions are buying. There continues to have an inflow of institution money. If you look at the website fintel.io, you can see there is continued to have increase in institutional accumulation over here. And it's been going on for closer to a whole year now. Before that, there were a little bit of ups and downs, but so far, really over the last year, it's pretty clear to see there's an increase in institutional accumulation. So far right now, institutional ownership is around 40% for Palantir, which is actually not bad. This is around the same level of institutional ownership for Tesla right before this big giant parabolic bull run. You were basically getting very, very similar institutional ownership. I mean, do I want to see it a little bit higher? Yes, but it's not bad. What do I think Palantir is going to do? I think it's going to go up higher. Why do I say that? Because it's been going higher. It's a trend. It's a bull trend. So far, there's not really any signs for exhaustion. I'm going to go through a few indicators here, kind of show you what I'm looking at here. Just right off the bat, ever since the lows around December 2022, and it was an absolutely terrible earning report, by the way. Like, there was no growth. Things were so terrible. Ever since then, it's been making higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and right now it's trying to find a higher low somewhere. It's a bull trend. There's no doubt it's been a bull trend for over a year now. This is very, very clear to me. Now, if you look at what the volume is also doing, you can see that the buying volume has been very much exponentially going up. Selling volume has been going down, and buying volume has been going up over here, right? So far, selling volume is also very, very pathetic, just like it did over here after this big giant green volume candle over here. We have another one over here back in February, and so far, the selling volume candle over here has been pretty pathetic. Right now, we are kind of getting stuck at a pretty important volume shelf over here that has been going on for quite some time. The price really spent a whole year around 2020, 2021 at the current level right here. So I don't anticipate for you to just kind of break right through that. Do I think the price is going to end up spending the whole year here before breaking out? No, I don't. The reason why is because price didn't spend any time down here before. I think it's been already eating a lot of the supply from many years ago. And this breakout over here looks like maybe a little bit of a back test of some of the levels down here. Could already have had its back test of the wick over here, and that would be it. And it just keeps on going up because there's so much buying pressure that's coming in. Possible. I wouldn't necessarily count it going all the way down to like 20 and back test it and bump up, because right now it's been holding very well at the volume shelf up here. There's not really any, not really any, how do you say that, promise or guarantee that it's going to go back down here, just kind of bounce around these two volume shelves out here before going up higher. Right now, you're seeing a lot of friction, like price. It seems to be a little bit more like a magnet around this big giant volume shelf over here, just like it was before. And depending on what the volume is showing, if there's a lot of true weakness on the bearish energy over here, if volume continues to be not very impressive on these kind of downward movements over here, bull's gonna sniff that out. The next thing you know, you're just gonna end up pumping higher. When it pumps out this volume shelf over here, the top of the volume shelf is going to be around 30. Bottom of the volume shelf around here is going to be around like 21, 22. If it pumps above the volume shelf here about 30, you're talking about there's not much whole lot of history up here. You're talking about price exploration. It could potentially go up pretty impulsive pretty quickly. How long is it going to get stuck in this range over here? This could be the last month of it, or it could last for another few months. Nobody really knows, right? All I know is that the trend is bullish and that there's still a lot of bullish energy that's being building up. There's a lot of buyers that can't wait for Palantir to pull back to buy. And there are a lot of people who are making a lot of assumptions based on technical analysis that this is going to happen, that's going to happen. That's not how it works. It's all based on probability. It's all based on probability. You can't just assume that things are going to happen. If you see that you want to get an entry for Palantir, again, none of this is financial advice. I'm just kind of talking about practicality and generality here, right? If you want to get a good entry into Palantir, you want to get entry in a place where it is a little bit of a low risk and high reward type situation. And as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of stuck between this volume shelf over here. So, near the bottom of the volume shelf, right around the area where it could potentially backtest some of these levels over here from previous resistance into support, around this zone over here is going to be a pretty decent risk reward ratio over here. Can it go down further? Sure, right? I mean, there's no guarantees. It's just going to bounce up here, right? But I also wouldn't necessarily guarantee it's just going to go down, right? There's no guarantee that that's going to happen, especially when the selling volume has been particularly pathetic. Like, there's just absolutely no guarantee one way or another. So I did end up nibble, like, I initially for like a whole year and a half, I was basically saying, oh, price breaks about 21, I'm not going to buy anymore. I did nibble buy a little bit here today. When price got down to closer to like 22. It is what it is. Sometimes you see a good risk-benefit ratio. If you want to just buy a little bit, the bulk of my majority of my position has already been built. I'm talking about like buying like 0.5% in addition to what I have today, like, or even less than that. Like, it's like minuscule in terms of what I bought today. But I did buy a little something, and I just want to tell you in terms of why I think the way that I do. But all of this is just a probability game, right? There's no guarantee. If you put up the Ichimoku cloud over here, bullish cross, and you have the Tenkan right here above the Kijun right here. Very, very nice separation, very nice bull trend, right? Price actually got pretty close to the Tenkan, so I don't think I'll absolutely have to touch the Tenkan and push up, just like I didn't really touch the Tenkan over here for a long time. When it does, it's pretty impulsive. I don't think I absolutely have to do that. Or you can just kind of go sideways a little bit, maybe for another month or so, wait for Tenkan to kind of catch up and push price up higher. That's also a possibility. Or it just doesn't have to always touch Tenkan. Just like over here on the downtrend, it doesn't always have to get rejected by Tenkan to go down, right? Once the downtrend is very, very impulsive, it can just do its own thing. And sure enough, once the uptrend is very impulsive, it can also do its own thing. Although the further away you are from Tenkan, the more risk you're going to have. For example, if you bought here at 27, it was so far away from the Tenkan line down here, which is around 20.5. You're going to be buying it. You're going to be buying it to a pretty risky position over here. It can drop down, like 20% or something like that, to get down to some of these levels down here, because it was just way too far, way too fast. It's way far away from Tenkan than it should be. But again, there's no guarantee, right? I mean, I can understand if you did sell here, it's like, oh, it's way far from Tenkan. It's got to bounce back up. I'm going to sell when it gets a little bit closer. There's no guarantee, right? But if you bought here, the risk level is a little bit higher. Right now, the risk level is a lot lower. You spend another month consolidation right here, form a little bit of bull flag over here. Price didn't get too far away from the monthly Tenkan. I like this look right here. And I also like the fact that it's kind of stuck at the bottom of this volume shelf over here, which means that, and also like the fact that the volume is not that impressive in terms of the selling volume, which means that there's a potential chance for it to kind of range around here for a little bit before bouncing about 30 and go up higher. You know what else did that recently? And I'm not saying that, Palantir is MicroStrategy, because it's a completely separate thing. MicroStrategy had a bullish cross over here, spent a month around here, getting rejected by, at the very, very similar level over here from 2020, 2021. A lot of history over here, right? Got rejected by that level once, twice, on the third month, pushed right through. Very, very gigantic bullish candle, because there's not really a whole lot of price history up here, is there? If you pull up the volume shelf, there's not a whole lot of price history up here, is there? Once it passed about this, 800 level over here, it's all sky from here into up here. And this over here is really just starting to form. Like before that, the volume shelf didn't even exist. This volume shelf over here is new. So what you're seeing here is what you could potentially be seeing for Palantir. Although, do I think it's going to push up that high all of a sudden to like some crazy numbers? Not necessarily, but I do think that once it breaks about 30, there is a whole lot less resistance above, and price could potentially push up a lot higher. So 30 is probably going to be like the gateway here as far as I'm concerned, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Right now price is at 22, 23. Let's see what happens. It could go down, test some of the lower levels down here before it go up higher, or it may not have to. But that's the Ichimoku cloud for you. Look at the Bollinger Band. The price just simply got way too far above the upper Bollinger Band, kind of correct sideways for 2 months. None of this is unusual, by the way, but Bollinger Band is expanding. Is expanding up. The upper Bollinger Band right now is around 25.8, and if it continues to expand to like 30, I think it's going to give a lot more room for price to run back up to 30 or even beyond. The upper Bollinger Band during a bull market cycle like this, the upper Bollinger Band is going to be potentially serve as like a magnet. If price gets too far above, it's going to drag it back down. If price gets too far below, it's going to drag it back up. So the upper Bollinger Band continues to expand as you continue to build up this bull trend here, and it could potentially continue to drag price up higher over time. And I think it's probably going to end up dragging price up higher over the next year or two. None of these things are deterministic. These are just guesses, but I like the way that it looks right now. Those are the monthly charts here. If you look a little bit into the deeper dive in terms of what it's doing on the weekly, a couple of things is doing on the weekly. One is that it's already pulling the weekly Tenkan all the way up. Like Tenkan is way above Kijun, and it's been above Kijun throughout the entire time. You never really had like a true bearish cross at any time ever since ever since like May of 2023. You never really had a bearish cross on a weekly of the Tenkan and Kijun. This is how bullish this trend has been. And right now Tenkan has just been dragged up all the way because of this big giant candle over here, averaging out everything up here, and it's not really averaging out any of this stuff down here anymore. So that's why the Tenkan is just like pushed all the way up like that. Eventually, I do think that on a bull market, the weekly Tenkan is also going to serve as a magnet. It could oscillate up and down of it, but eventually it's going to end up following that. And also, price is bullish. It's been forming higher highs and higher lows. Price is also going to get dragging Tenkan up as well. So you got a little bit of like a synergistic bullishness there going on, right? If you look at the bull support band, we might starting to get to a little bit closer to the support band here. Could all come down all the way down to kind of touch like 21 level before bouncing up. Sure, does it have to do that? No. Just because it did that over here, it doesn't mean that it absolutely has to do that. Because sometimes price just doesn't touch the support band on the way down or on the way up. It's just become very, very impulsive. Eventually, it's going to drag the band down or up together with it, and it's going to touch it eventually, but it doesn't have to do that right now. There's no guarantee it's going to have to drop down to 21. If you want an entry level down to 21, sure. I mean, a lot of people are also eyeing this level over here. Could it backtest that over here before and bounce up before going further? Sure, that's entirely possible. There's no guarantee. There is no guarantee. If you want to zoom in even a little bit more, I even take a look at the daily here, because a lot of people are kind of making a bunch of statements, or these absolute statements like something is going to happen because that's just the way it looks. The definition of insanity is trying things over and over again and getting the same result, expecting a different result, right? You have a head and shoulder looking thing over here, right? You have a head and shoulder thing looking over here, right? You have a head and shoulder thing looking kind of over here. If you're into like the whole diagonal kind of thing, if you're into that kind of thing, I guess that's also potentially a head and shoulder over here, right? You also get a little tiny head and shoulder pattern kind of over here. And right now, everybody has been talking over the last few weeks. There's a head and shoulder pattern over here. You're basically having how many failed head and shoulder pattern has there been so far? For those people who don't understand or don't know what head and shoulder pattern is, this is like technical analysis 101. Everybody's going to look at head and shoulder. Everybody's going to show head and shoulder. Everybody's telling you that this is like a bearish pattern that's going to break down. It's going to go down to like whatever target's up here on the head. It's going to go down for the same distance. This is like technical analysis 101. Guess what the success rate of head and shoulder is? Not very high, is it? Failed once. I mean, I could also, like, if you squint, you can also see, like, some diagonal head and shoulder. I hate diagonal head and shoulders, by the way. Like, even head and shoulders has a high failure rate. Diagonal head and shoulder pattern has even a higher failure rate, right? This is not a head and shoulder. Like, failed, diagonal, failed, right? If you're looking for this head and shoulder as, like, a reversal pattern, it's already failed many, many, many times. Stop being insane. Can this time be the charm? One time be the charm where the head and shoulder pattern ends up working out, and you're going to end up having price kind of plummet down here and close this gap down here? We'll talk a little bit about gaps too in a second. But can it end up come down and close the gap? Sure. Would you absolutely expect that to happen? I'm not sure if this is an absolute expectation that the head and shoulder here is going to work. I just show you why it might not. I'm also not sure whether or not these gaps over here is going to close. Because, you know why? Again, the definition of insanity is what? Expecting different results by doing the same thing over and over again. Did this gap over here close? No. It did not. Did this gap over here close? No, it did not. Did this gap over here close? No, it did not. Did a lot of people expect the gap to close, and did a lot of people end up holding off buying up here the entire time because they're looking these gaps down below and they want to buy it, want to wait for these gaps to fill down here before buying? You bet your butt there are plenty of people who expected that to happen. It didn't happen. Is it going to end up closing the gap over here? I don't know. Could be. Looks like a pretty nice bullish breakout of this, resistance zone over here with a pretty nice back test over here though. Very, very nice back test over here at this resistance level over here. Does it go down further before going up higher? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it. Volume certainly seemed like the selling volume has been pretty pathetic, right? Buy volume, sell volume. Pretty sad. The consolidation has been happening for, closer to 2.5 months now. I think that it doesn't have to keep consolidating like that. I think we're at a pretty good area over here where I would not be surprised if we get a good earnings. It's just going to keep rocketing from here. Could it go down close to gap? Certainly. What is going to happen if that happens? I'm going to be buying. If it's just going to be a temporary flush down, I'm going to try to buy as much as I can. If it's going to end up going down here for longer, great. I'm going to keep on putting money into it. As long as price is less than 21, I'm going to keep buying. I'm very happy if I get the opportunity. Guess what? A lot of people are also going to be very happy if they get the opportunity to do so, but they might not end up buying because they might worry about the gap closing down here. They might worry about the gap closing down here. They might worry about the gap closing down here. I don't know. It's all about risk-reward ratio. None of this is like a guarantee kind of thing. So I'm just a little bit skeptical in terms of what people are thinking. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Let's pull up some of the indicators over here. Are we having any kind of like bearish divergence that we need to worry about? We did have initially maybe a little bit of bearish divergence over here where RSI just kind of went sideways, price went up, but that bearish divergence already worked out, right? I mean, like price already gone down. There's really not any like weekly bearish divergence over here that I'm really worried about. All the other bearish divergence over here has also already been worked out. Like there's no bearish divergence over here that I'm worried about on the weekly, right? Yeah, you have price kind of goes a little bit sideways over here, but RSI kind of got reset all the way from like the 70 to the 50s. I like this RSI reset. I think that this reset is very, very nice, and it could potentially allow the price to kind of push a lot higher when things are ready to do so. You have cool down on RSI. That's generally what you want to see after a big giant exponential candle like that. What's the unbalanced volume telling you? Not much. I'm trying to see if there's any kind of like bullish divergences down here. Not really. I see any bearish divergences over here? Not really. So there are really no indicators that are really showing any kind of particular concern. I think that there is a good chance that the sell volume over here is already getting quite exhausted, and the supply up here is already getting, pretty bought up. So I think we might be getting pretty much ready to go up a lot higher for longer. We'll see what happens. Originally, I was going to talk about Snowflake too, but this is already a 20-minute video. I'm going to stop right here. Thank you for listening. Have a good one. Bye.